Hello, and welcome to the USDA Civil Rights Training provided to you by the Illinois Department of Human Services TFAP program. Thank you. The State of Illinois Department of Human Services TFAP team wants to thank you for all you do to help prevent hunger in your community. Your work and volunteerism do not go unnoticed and is appreciated by those you serve and by us here at the state. So the TFAP distribution site staff and volunteers, please ensure that you sign an attendance sheet. This training is required annually, and for frontline staff, and for those who supervise frontline staff, new staff, or volunteers. So this attendance sheet will be reviewed by IDHS during management evaluations and quality assurance visits. As you can see, you have a section for your name, signature, and date, and testimonial that by signing you acknowledge that you've completed the civil rights training and agreed to the guidelines. So the purpose of the civil rights training is to convey and ensure compliance of USDA policy related to civil rights. The goals of this training are to ensure equal and consistent treatment for all neighbors, inform about program participants' rights and responsibilities, eliminate barriers that prevent or deter people from receiving benefits, and promote dignity and respect for everyone. We will review the following topics: program authorities, understanding discrimination of protected classes, types of discrimination and examples of discriminatory acts, civil rights scenarios, customer service and conflict resolution, and 6 areas of civil rights compliance. So here are the program authorities. Program authorities are acts, amendments, federal regs, and instructions, what the policies relate to civil rights are based on. So here are the program authorities. There's a long list, and you can see that there are different, as we said, titles, acts, amendments, etc., related to those that are protected by civil rights. So they're protected based on race, color, national origin, disability, sex, age, etc. And we'll go through all this in more details, but we just wanted to give you links about where all this comes from. So here's some more of the program authorities. One of the things that we really use a lot of are these CFRs. So the 250 and 251 guides us quite a bit as it relates to the TFAP program. And here are the protected classes. Our neighbors are shielded against discrimination for the following 6 protected classes under federal law. Those are race, color, national origin, sex, disability, and age. What is discrimination? Discrimination is the differing treatment of individuals or a group of individuals of a protected class, either intentionally, by neglect, or by the actions or lack of actions due to the individuals being a member of a protected class. USDA prohibits discrimination against its customers. The customers may file a complaint if they suspect or experience discrimination. The Office of the Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, through the Center for Civil Rights Enforcement, will investigate and resolve complaints of discrimination in programs operated or assisted by USDA. So here are the different types of discrimination that we mentioned earlier, the first one being race discrimination. This occurs when an applicant or employee or volunteer is treated differently based on ancestry, physical or cultural characteristics associated with a certain race, such as skin color, hair texture, or styles of certain spatial features. So TFAP on the federal level is exempt from collecting race and ethnicity data. But however, just for your information, federal data on race and ethnicity uses these 5 racial categories: American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white, Hispanic or Latino, and not Hispanic or Latino. Color discrimination occurs when a person is treated differently from others based on his or her skin pigmentation, lightness or darkness of the skin, complexion, shade, or tone. It can occur between persons of different races or ethnicities, or even between persons of the same race or ethnicity. National origin discrimination involves treating a person unfavorably because they are from a particular country or part of the world because of ethnicity or accent, or because they appear to be of a certain ethnic background, even if they are not. It can also involve treating people unfavorably because they are married to or associated with a person of a certain national origin. Discrimination can occur when the victim and the person who inflicted the discrimination are of the same national origin. Disability discrimination includes treating a person unfavorably based on a person's physical or mental impairment, which substantially limits one or more major life activities. The person has a record of such an impairment or is regarded as having such an impairment. So major life activities defined are a function such as caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing, learning, and working. Also functions of the immune system, normal cell growth, digestive, bowel, bladder, neurological, brain, respiratory, circulatory, cardiovascular, endocrine, and reproductive functions. Sex discrimination involves treating a person unfavorably because of that person's sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or pregnancy. Age discrimination involves treating a person unfavorably based on age. It also means excluding people over 40 from participation in, denying the benefits of, or subjecting to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Here are some additional types of discrimination. So these are not federally protected classes for the TEFAP program, but neighbors are still protected through methods described below. Religious discrimination involves treating a person unfavorably because of his or her religious beliefs. The law protects not only people who belong to traditional organized religions, such as Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism, but also others who have sincerely held religious, ethical, or moral beliefs. It can also involve treating someone differently because that person is married to or associated with an individual of a particular religion. Here is a written notice of beneficiary rights or religious activities. So we have this that needs to be posted in each of your sites, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, but just wanted to give you an idea of what is written on the beneficiary rights. And because the TEFAP program is supported in whole or in part by financial assistance from the federal government, we are required to let you know that we might not discriminate against you based on the basis of religion or religious belief, or refusal to hold a religious belief, or refusal to attend or participate in a religious practice. We may not require you to attend or participate in any explicitly religious activities, including activities that involve overt religious content such as worship, religious instruction, or proselytization that are offered by our organization, or any participation by you in such activities must be purely voluntary. We must separate in time or location any privately funded, explicitly religious activities, including activities that involve overt religious content, such as worship, religious instruction, or proselytization, from activities supported with direct federal financial assistance. And you may report violations of these protections, including any denials of service or benefits by an organization, by contacting or filing a written complaint with the United States Department of Agriculture. So, as a lot of you know, you must this notice must be posted. You must include flyers, or you may include flyers or handouts, or you may include the written notification on the intake form. Limited English proficiency is discrimination against individuals who do not speak English as their primary language and who have a limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English. So you must take reasonable steps to provide program information, materials, and services to persons with LEP. Here are some resources for LEP neighbors. The I Speak resource document is available to help identify the primary language of non-English speakers. And here's the link below. The USDA FNS website has additional resources in multiple languages at this link. And the IDHL's helpline can connect your clients with an interpreter who can offer other types of assistance in English or Spanish. And well, now we're moving on to examples of discriminatory acts. Here are some examples of discriminatory acts. Serving a non-minority before a minority who has arrived first, crossing the street, going on a break, clutching personal belongings when in the presence of a minority, saying epithets or discriminatory phrases based on stereotypes of protected classes, making malicious jokes about racial stereotypes and saying that it's all in good fun or it was just a joke, assumptions of someone's abilities or lack thereof due to their race, gender, or national origin. You're, insert ethnicity or gender, you're good with IT and computers, right? So you must be good with, IT or computers, right? And here are some civil rights scenario, which Erica will review.
Thank you, Bindi. So now I want us to all apply what Bindi's gone over to some situations. So be ready to think, out what your responses would be here. So here's a scenario. A group of Pacific Islanders has moved into the Austin neighborhood in Chicago. And if anyone's familiar with the Austin neighborhood, it's about 75% Black. So these Pacific Islanders are from Hawaii, where the Lahaina, if I say that correctly, fires destroyed their homes. So Moana arrived from Hawaii last year and was excited about this influx of people from her native community that have settled near her house in Chicago. So she's decided to give back by volunteering at the Austin Pantry, and she befriends a woman named Daisy, who's also a Pacific Islander. Now, one day while Moana's volunteering, Daisy had dropped her kids off at school and was running late to pick up her food box because of traffic, always traffic. Moana puts a food box aside for Daisy, her friend, but tells the Black neighbors who are waiting in line that the food pantry's out of boxes. When Daisy arrives, Moana then gives Daisy this box in front of the other neighbors who did not receive food. So what is the civil rights violation here? And what should have Moana done differently? Let's go to the next slide and we'll answer. So the civil rights violation is saving and distributing TFAT foods to a friend while neighbors of a different race, and that's the civil rights violation, right? It's wrong to save for a friend, but also the civil rights violation here is this race discrimination, giving it to the friend of the same race and not to the neighbors who were in line before this friend. So what should have she done differently? Well, she should have let Daisy know that she can't save foods. You can't save foods for anyone. And she could have been conveyed the hours of operation to Daisy to make sure that she would arrive on time and equally and justly receive a box, just as anyone else may or may not receive a box, depending on what's available. So here's another situation. Chicago has an influx of new arrivals coming from Venezuela, and they're staying in shelters. Now, these shelters they're staying in are a predominantly Asian community. The Asian neighbors and volunteers are upset that they have to share their food with these new arrivals from Venezuela. And volunteers are refusing to serve those new arrivals from Venezuela, saying they already are receiving prepared food from the city. How should this be addressed? So the following messages could be shared to address this if something like this were to occur in your pantry. All residents who are income eligible, regardless of where they're from or how long they've been residing in that neighborhood, are eligible. And that is the bottom line with TFAP foods. Sean, you're maybe someone can mute it. And then, so refusing to serve a new and eligible neighbor based on where they're from is a civil rights violation and is not acceptable. all volunteers, if someone does this unknowingly, they need to be referred to view this video or complete civil rights training or refresher, so that we can ensure that all neighbors are equally and justly served in the community. Okay, here's another situation. A neighbor tries to speak with a volunteer at the food pantry in a language that's not English, but the volunteer can't understand this neighbor. The volunteer apologizes in English and says, "We don't have anyone available who speaks your language." Now, this neighbor then leaves without being served. How could this be handled differently? And what resources do you have available to you to better serve this neighbor? And here you see the same I Speak handout that Bindi discussed earlier. The first step would be I don't know if you all have these printed, maybe laminated at your sites, but that's a good first step. So you could present this I Speak statement to the neighbor and give them a little bit of time to look over which language and identify which language, if they're able to read, might be theirs. And then you can see if there's a staff member or volunteer who does speak that language. And if not, then go on your site's translation platform and assist that neighbor in completing their intake forms. And then making sure that that neighbor leaves then with TFAT foods if they are indeed eligible. Another situation, a neighbor complains, or here's a few situations. So be thinking about whether these are allowable or if it's not appropriate. A neighbor complains that the church where she picks up her food requires her to participate in a prayer service before taking her food home. Is that acceptable? Okay, another situation. A neighbor in line asks a pantry volunteer to pray with her while she waits for her turn to receive USDA foods. Does this sound allowable? Also, the church room from which TFAT foods are distributed has many brochures laid out regarding church services. Is this allowable? Next slide, please. None of these are allowable. They're all prohibitive. So here's the language referring to the Code of Federal Regulations 7 CFR 16.4b, stating organizations that receive USDA direct assistance under any USDA program may not engage in explicitly religious activities, including activities that involve overt religious content, such as worship, religious instruction, or proselytization, as part of the programs or services funded by USDA direct assistance. If an organization conducts such activities, these activities must be offered separately in time or location from the programs or services supported with USDA direct assistance, and participation must be voluntary for beneficiaries of programs or services supported by such USDA direct assistance. So what does this mean? What does the offered separately in time or location mean? So when you're distributing TFAT foods, if there are religious activities occurring, they have to be at a different place, different location, or occurring at a different time in the same place. Okay, hopefully that's straightforward. All right, so we all know that we're all human and treating each other well is important, and customer service is important, and conflict resolution is a skill that we can all grow. Okay, so what are some effective ways to provide customer service and skills to resolve conflicts that may occur? And there's always going to be conflicts, so even little ones. Okay, so typically customers who are behaving in a difficult manner, their expectations aren't being met, or perhaps they don't understand what the role of a worker at the food pantry is. The customer's focused on getting their immediate assistance needs met, and might not feel like the worker or the pantry is supporting them in this. Generally, people don't want to be difficult or argumentative, particularly when they're seeking care. So they might not be aware of how their negative behavior might be impacting other people. That said, there will be some negative behaviors, right? So how can we diffuse a difficult situation? The words that you use can be helpful, but also the tone of voice and body language. So these things combine to really impact how the customer perceives the response, perhaps when they're frustrated with their expectations not being met. So stuff like body language might be, if someone's sitting there with their arms crossed, you're not really open to receiving information, right? The tone of voice can be changed from really like standoffish to warm and welcoming, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So some tips. Remaining calm, trying not to let ourselves be triggered. A good way to, if someone does say something in a harsh tone that makes us perhaps want to respond in a harsh tone, a couple of things you could do is just take a pause, right? Just don't immediately respond back. Take a breath. That can just, just getting in some oxygen and out can just calm you down, or even a couple breaths if you need to. So first, take a pause, take a breath, whatever, just keep your calm. And then verbalize, communicate that you want to help them. I'm here to help you. Let's see how we can figure this out. Verbalize that. Keep the calm, verbalize how you can help, and that you're there to help them. That's your role. Then use the information that's given to you to help determine what the issue is. Really try, and then this goes into the next point too, really try to understand from the customer's perspective what's going on, why are they frustrated, really listening to them to understand what the concern is before jumping to any, you see a lot of concerns. So you might have your standard expectations of what the concern is from the customer, but perhaps it's something else. And this is the first time that they're experiencing the frustration. You might have heard this frustration from several neighbors before, but this is the first time that they're experiencing it, or maybe it is different, and you have this expectation that that's what it is. So really listening and hearing them and giving them a chance to vocalize and express their concern, and keeping your calm when you're listening to that. If it's appropriate, apologize about the situation. I'm sorry it's taking longer than expected. I'm sorry the process isn't immediately clear. I know this is new to you. I'm here to help you. So it's okay to apologize, and it's often appreciated. And then offer solutions. Your role as the worker or the volunteer is to find solutions for the neighbor. So take responsibility of that. And if you can't help find the solution, then, help identify the person who can, or the person who can help you identify the solution to the issue at hand. And don't take it personally. And it's easier said than done. Everybody has their own days and different emotions going on, but it's not, the customer's concern isn't about you. It's about, a larger frustration. So don't take it personally, and just try to help them resolve the issue. And then follow up. If making sure that their issue does get resolved, making sure that a supervisor knows that the issue has occurred, perhaps it is a reoccurring issue that needs to be addressed. I'm making sure that the customer is satisfied and is given what they need. If you've tried to assist the customer by providing the best customer service that you can, and they remain argumentative or even abusive, you don't have to put up with abuse. Nobody has to put up with abuse. Do not argue back, though. It's not worth getting into a fight. Keep your own sense of calm and self-confidence and remain helpful. Perhaps refer to a supervisor if it is escalating and seems out of control. And if necessary, if the police do need to be called, if it's a dangerous situation, then that's something that needs to happen. Maintaining everybody's safety, including volunteers and staff, is always priority.